Hello everyone! Originally, I was planning to do like a top 10 video on stories that I would like to see further explored in the future. Storylines has been built up, strings that they could pull on, like going into the Great Dark Beyond, or the return of Sargeras and his partnership with Azeroth, or Yril and her Light Crusade. Now I might still pick up those ideas in the future and dive a bit deeper into them. One idea that really got me going, one idea that I really want to talk about today, it's about dragons, and a little bit more specifically, Nosdormu and the infinite dragonflights.
In time, all things are possible.
When the Keepers called upon their creators to empower 5 proto-dragons and transform them into the dragon aspects, they turned Nosdormu into a bronze dragon and gave him dominion over time. Unto you is charged the great task of keeping the purity of time. Know that there is only one true timeline, though there are those who would have it otherwise. You must protect it. Without the truth of time as it is meant to unfold, more will be lost than you can possibly imagine. The fabric of reality will unravel. It is a heavy task, the base of all tasks of this world, for nothing can transpire without time. The now timeless one was also shown the moment of his demise, an event that he is not allowed to change, so that he would never think his power so great and terrible that he had to answer to no other. But some way, somehow, he messed up and birthed Muruzand. The Dungeon Journal says that, now living outside of time, Muruzand was once the great dragon aspect Nosdormu the Timeless One. After the Titans showed him his own death, the tormented Nosdormu was tricked by the old gods into trying to subvert his mortality. As a result, Nosdormu shattered the timeways and created the infinite dragonflight, jeopardizing the very future of Azeroth. We've run into the infinite dragonflight a couple of times now. A lot of people are re-experiencing the Burning Crusade and the Caverns of Time dungeons that come with it. There we see them trying to mess with time, alter events that have happened before. For some events, you might even wonder if it would be better to let the infinites do their thing. There's the moment of trying to stop Medivh from opening up the Dark Portal, which would mean no invasion by the Hordes. Or Wrath the Lich King, where they tried to stop Arthas from confronting Mal'Ganis, which would mean that he would become the Lich King. Since their motivations have never been fully explained, and since time travel is a bit wibbly wobbly, you can give a few spins to it. One take would be that no Lich King would also mean no major reason for people to go to Northrend, so that story arc with Yogg-Saron and Ulduar, he would be free to do his thing. No Horde invasion, and by that extension, no Thrall to reform the Hordes, as the Infinites also tried to stop him from escaping Durnhold. That would leave Azeroth severely weaker. There was a lot of death and destruction at the hands of the Hordes, but there was also unification and a fighting force that, when working together, when the Alliance and Horde managed to stop killing each other, it put fear in even the hearts of the old gods and led to great victories over Cthulhu and beyond. So despite these moments leading to some painful events, they were moments that were required for the salvation of the world and the purity of the timeline. Something that the Infinites want to disturb. The corrupted bronze dragonflight, led by Muruzand.
Relent or perish.
So if the Dungeon Journal speaks true, the birth of this dragonflight, their origin, it comes from the old gods that manipulate Nosdormu into taking this path. You might argue that this is not our Nosdormu, that this is some kind of alternate reality, a possibility to happen, yet the end dialogue, it kinda cancelled that out.
You know not what you have done, Amenthul. What I have... At last it has come to pass. The moment of my demise. The loop is closed. My future self will cause no more harm. Still, in time, I will fall to madness. And you, heroes, will vanquish me. The cycle will repeat. So it goes.
A cycle that will happen to our Nosdormu, as this is the moment of his demise that was shown to him. That means that at some point, the old gods are going to need to whisper to him, manipulate him, and turn him to the dark side. That might be a bit tricky, considering that we seemingly cleansed Azeroth of its old god corruption. But then again, Nosdormu has the ability to travel through time. He could find a reason to go back to, for example, the days of the Black Empire and be blasted by the old gods at the height of their power. The manipulation is not hard to figure out, but there is the question, does he still have the power left to shatter the time ways? You see, at the end of the Cataclysm, they decided that the Dragon Aspect's ultimate purpose, it was to take care of one of the Dragon Aspects. They stopped the Hour of Twilight and saved the day, but it did cost them a huge chunk of their power to make it so. But not all of it. They're just a lot less powerful than they used to be, which opened up a really cool storyline about mortals helping them out with the charge of protecting the Time Ways. These so-called Time Walkers, they showed up on the Timeless Isle in Mista Pandaria. They had their historians, their watchers, weavers and wardens. We helped out as well, of course, or at the very least we tried to do so. The bronze dragon Kairos Dormu, he had us fill up his vision of time with epoch stones, which were found on the isle. Crystallized essence of time, which allowed us to use his device to see visions of the past, of the future, of potential futures. All that in search of a traitor amongst them. Visions like Thrall and Sourfang going into Orgrimmar. Anduin visiting Garrosh in his prison, Garrosh that was defeated, or the victory he so desired with Stormwind destroyed. All these have played a role in the storyline, except for the final vision. Here we see Soridormi, consort of Nosdormu, dying, and none other than Kairos walks away. We're asked not to speak of this vision, and while Soridormi still lives, Kairos was definitely a traitor. He decided to use the vision of time to create a gateway so that he and Garrosh could escape to another reality. While all that was going on, the Infinite Dragonflight attacked the temple where they were having their court case. They provided a distraction, allies to Kairos, as both were fine with altering time to suit their will. There were definitely some building blocks here to have Kairos be responsible or at least involved with the Infinite Dragonflight. There was also this strong line that the spirit of Kairos dropped during Warlords of Draenor.
Kairos! What did you want? Why did you need an army?
Not just one. An infinite number of armies. Across an infinite number of worlds. I would be infinite!
Imagine a scenario in which the death of Soridormi, in combination with the whispers of the old gods that pushed Nosdormu into subverting his own mortality, be it for vengeance or be it to try and reverse the death of his beloved, something like that. Building blocks that were ready to be used, but it never really came to be. The vision of Soridormi, as far as we know, it never played its part, and Kairos was murdered by Garrosh the moment they arrived, leaving us with the expansion Warlords of Draenor and a story that could have been. Or it might still be a thing. Now I know what you're thinking, Warlords of Draenor, it wasn't exactly a highlight in WoW's history, but I personally don't think that it was due to the storyline. Rather, it was because of the untouched opportunities, the little expansion that could, with big plans that didn't really deliver and a severe lack in the amount of content. The concept of diving into alternate realities or diving into the history of Warcraft, that concept on its own, in my opinion, it has major potential for badass storytelling, awesome new settings, different takes on scenarios that we know. In the books, this concept has actually been used before. Thrall, Twilight of the Aspects, it has the orc travel the time ways, and he ends up in an alternate timeline where he himself had died as a child. This little change caused a chain reaction. His master Blackmore didn't rely on his prize slave gladiator. Instead, he took action himself. He sobered up, he formed an army, he gained support, even defeated the first horde and secured their allegiance. Imagine exploring that timeline, or one in which Arthas never became the Lich King, or one in which the Troll empires never lost their power and still rule the world, or one in which Thrall never made Garrosh the war chief, or one in which the Black Empire was never cleansed from the planet, or the Legion that claimed victory. There are 1,000 scenarios to think of, small differences which could have huge effects for the overall look of Azeroth. Or not just Azeroth, they could also bring in Draenor or Argus, whatever area they like to take it. Just imagine the different kind of people you would encounter. They would be familiar to you, you would know them from our timeline, yet they would be completely different. Their lives went down a whole different path, a concept which was also used in the novel War Crimes. A different timeline could also mean different threats waiting to be taken on. Perhaps enemies of the past could be turned into allies. There is massive potential for some really creative developments. Just let your mind wander for a bit and think about where they could take this. So a big driving force of this idea, it would be the inevitable corruption of Nosdormu, the birth of Moruzand and the infinite dragonflight, shattering the timeways and having us travel through them, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to repair the pieces, and while doing so, we can explore different time periods, or perhaps different timelines. In my opinion, it's about time we get some sweet dragon lore going again. Not just the bronzed get their time to shine, all of them could be involved. Mortals have been aiding the dragonflights. Why not make it official by adding the option of the Dragonsworn? That term might be the first time that you hear about it, or perhaps you are familiar. The Dragonsworn are from the Warcraft RPG, which says, for centuries, the Grey Dragonflights have noted the potential of younger races. In a few select cases, they choose a creature of another race to be one of a select few with the privilege of directly serving a dragon or entire group of dragons. Such devotees dedicate their lives to the protection and service of the dragonflights and reap the benefits of the great knowledge and power that the draconic masters share. Each dragonflight treats its Dragonsworn differently and grants them slightly different boons for their service. The patron dragon for a Dragonsworn of the Bronze Dragonflight might give a faithful disciple a relic from the War of the Ancients, whereas a Dragonsworn of Nefarian, or the Black Dragonflight, they might be taught the basics of how to manipulate the deadly powers of Shadow Flame. Allying yourself to one of the flights could be done in different ways. They could add a whole new race like the Dragonspawn, monstrous beings trained to serve under the 5 dragonflights of the world, and some say they evolved from humans who dedicated their lives to servitude under the great dragons. Or they could make it something that you can pick and choose, similar to a covenant. Except this time you would have the freedom of swapping around. You could hang out with Rephion or Caligos or Chromie, learn more of their ancient knowledge, made easier with being able to speak Draconic. Each flight could offer its own boons, transmog, abilities. I would love to be able to transform into a dragon mid-combat, see the spells slightly altering its use. But perhaps a safer bet would be to just upgrade the looks of spells, dependent on which dragonflight that you're allied with, and have the mount reward be a transformation, similar to how druids can shapeshift. Something to make it interesting and different to ally with the flights, as they once again unite to take on or help out one of their own. Not Deathwing this time, but Nosdormu. And while going through it, they don't just have to stick with the Bronze Dragonflight, all of them could be involved. There could be Rephion, representing the Black Dragonflight. He could continue his quest of finding the Dragon Isles. Could make for a cool spot for the much desired player housing, and now that the old gods are seemingly cleansed of the world, what kind of effect does that have on the rest of his flights? Their madness was induced by the old gods. Is that now slowly fading away, or are they more desperate to get the old gods back? And what about his brother Sibelian? After all these years, he's still hanging out on Outlands. What is up with him on Outlands? Caligos and the Blues, they have the Nexus that houses a huge amount of power. Not to mention the 5-headed dragon Chromatus. Kalik has also been the one to keep the dragons together, so he could continue in such a role. Alexstrasza the Red, she lost the beloved Corielstras as he sacrificed himself to save their children from corruption. His body was never recovered though. Neither was Ronin's when he sacrificed himself to save Faramor. These two have defied death in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if they accidentally ended up in a different part of time again. Let's be fair, Alexstrasza could definitely use a win after dealing with so much loss and tragedy. But Rivra of the Dream, she's taken over from her mother Ysera, and things haven't exactly been easy. Druids and Green Dragons have had a partnership for a very long time. Would they be willing to accept classes like Warlocks or Death Knights among their ranks, in the face of threats like the Emerald Nightmare or whatever else might be hidden away in the depths of the Emerald Dream? Azeroth itself has been hurting for quite a bit. Could they play a bigger role in trying to nurse back her strength? Now, of course, there's a lot more story they could drop in between, not just dragon related, but for the sake of the video, I wanted to toss up a few ideas when it comes to them. They could even have some other faces take the forefront in representing the dragons. These are just some suggestions. Now rotating back to Moruzand again, we could have Chromie representing for the Bronze Dragonflights. Not unfamiliar with cruising the different timeways and accepting one's moment of demise. She could be an excellent guide, and what has me curious about the Infinite story is not just its birth, it's not just their motivation or what they're trying to do. I'm also very intrigued by what Moruzand tells us here.
The end time. I once called this place. I had not seen by then. I did not know. You hope to what? Stop me here. Change the fate I worked so tirelessly to weave. You crawl unwitting like a blind, writhing worm towards endless madness and despair. I have witnessed the true end time. This is a blessing you simply cannot comprehend.
For context, this end time is one of an infinite number of potential outcomes. It depicts the desolate future of Azeroth should Deathwing fail to be stopped. A timeline in which we failed at the end of the Cataclysm. The Hour of Twilight happens, the old gods broke out of their prison, impaled their crazed servant upon Wormrest Temple, and took over the world. We can only imagine what horrors the old gods unleashed upon the world. Some of our leaders certainly didn't have the best time out of all of this, but if this is something that Moruzand calls a blessing compared to the true end time that he witnessed, what in the world did he see? Was it just a manipulation of the old gods, or is it something that we could party in as well? Something that we could experience?
I can arrange for your parents not to meet.
A long story short, an idea for future storytelling, it could be diving into the past, into the future, into alternate takes, and explore what small changes could affect the greater outcome. We could party with the dragons again, earn rewards in the process. I don't know, I just think it's a really cool idea. But by all means, let me know what you think. What possible timeline would you like to explore? Let me know in the comments down below. And for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe and hit the bell if you like my videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. And until next time, see ya!